Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proofread, where we are interviewing some of the most awesome people on the interwebs, in my opinion, anyway. And today we have with us a whole load of expertise on subjects that I feel kind of intimidated, but that's okay. We have with us Dr. Kipp and Dr. Joshua Bowen. How are you? How are you,
Doing
gents?
well. Doing well.
Doing
How are
well?
you?
I'm doing good.
I gotta
nice
say, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's nice to finally meet you like this. I think we were in a debate after show together once.
Yes. Yep.
A couple of years ago. But I think that's it.
I have to say, Kipp, it's rare that I'm intimidated by you when I wear this bow tie, but that teacup and saucer.
I know. I was gonna say there's a lot of class.
I'm feeling underprepared here, you know?
This is my grandmother's teapot, by the way.
That is amazing.
Awesome.
I love it. That looks like some fine china, sir. Some fine china. Yeah. Look, the class in this
I got something
interview
from my
is
grandma.
just it's nice. I mean, I got lots of things from.
I have no idea.
On me.
I have no occasions, no practical use for china. I mean, what do you do with it? You might as well. Yeah, you might as well use it.
I think it's you'll find that it's pronounced China.
China. Yeah, I think you intimidate other people, so you're using it right, Dr. Kipp. You intimidate other people. Between the bow tie and the china and everything, I'm feeling great. And today I wanted to draw you together. And Josh, I know from way back, late night for America, I used to go on there during my daytime on Amy's channel and just have a raucous time. I believe it was most accurately described as a Socratic gangbang is what it was once described as, which was pretty accurate. A lot of, Socratic method going around. Yeah. And so that was ages ago now, years ago, but it's really good to see you again. And I missed the conversations. Unfortunately, Amy got a real life and is doing normal hours, which is bad for me, but probably great for you. And but I still hold her in much regard and much love. But the reason why I contacted you is I saw you with Stephen or Rationality Rules talking about a response you got from a certain creationist, one Michael Jones, and he sort of was.
Oh, don't call him a creationist. He'll get mad at you.
Doesn't he think that God created everything?
I mean, I suppose on some level, yes, but Michael Jones famously leans hard into the fact that he actually accepts evolution, thus making him a perfectly rational Christian apologist whose positions are all just as, rational and well thought out.
Well, it's a good start compared, but I mean, I think that if you think that the universe was created, you might be an old Earth creationist, as the young Earth creationists call them, but you're still a creationist, even if you think that the evolution was created by a god.
If you accept the science, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't see how that, even if he's an old Earth creationist and one that accepts the evolutionary model, it's still, I suppose, more accurately, let's just say theist. Then.
I just think you're getting all sorts of people into tons of trouble here.
Cool. Probably myself most of all. Look, I am usually the one to get myself into the most trouble, so I apologize if that's inaccurate. I generally use the term.
There'll be a 9-hour response video.
9 hours.
Right. And that was one of the things he was objecting to, that you corrected him thoroughly, which so it seems to be this whole thing of, well, you should have done it behind closed doors. And it seems strange to me that even if you had a sort of relationship with somebody like that you would necessarily, we are, to even a certain degree, all content creators, and it seems to be this thing of, well, I'll make these declarative statements, but you aren't allowed to correct me out in the open. And I want to hear your sentiments on that. Like, do you think that that's fair, or what ought you be doing in this circumstance?
Well, I think, I feel bad about it because Kip, this is how
Of
it's
course
done
you do.
here,
Yeah.
right? Whenever somebody gets a monograph, you go to them privately and you say, listen, let me tell you
All
the
those
issues that I had with your monograph.
all those book reviews that get published are
They're all just a bunch
they're
of
all the
meaty
results.
faces.
No, I was going to say they're all the results of weeks of intensive private conversations between between the author and the reviewer. This is the secret here, right?
That's how it works. Yeah, every
What the
time
hell are
somebody
we
gets
talking
up
about here?
and gives a paper, and they have
Well,
the Q&A afterwards.
Yeah.
You have that 5
Okay,
minutes.
we're gonna take each of you behind closed doors, and you can express your grievances
Hey, come on,
in
let's
private.
Right.
So go back for a bit. Everyone gets a turn. Okay.
This is something that happens in academia all the time because,
Oh God.
Well, yeah, sort of the whole sort of peer review, and then people publishing, contending papers. They don't sort of talk about it in private. Do you guys feel that it should be out in the open? Like the discussion back and forward should be something
It's
that
called
is
publishing. Like
Yeah,
right.
but
the
Kip,
root of that word.
Kip, I think Mark is just poisoning the well here, frankly.
Probably.
Right.
So
And there is a lot of
look,
that
like
going around.
I have years and years of experience attending and presenting at academic conferences. And let me tell you, when you're a young scholar, those first few times that you actually get up and read your paper in front of a collection of your peers and your mentors, and in many cases, your the people in the field that you've looked up to, it's incredibly intimidating. And one of the reasons why is not just because it's intimidating to get up in front of people and to present your work, but because if you're presenting in a conference, you've probably attended a couple and watched how some of these sessions go. And I'm just speaking out of my own experience in my own field, and I know the biblical scholars all look like a bunch of Poindexters. But listen, when they're in a room together, there is blood on the carpet. It is it can be really rough. And I think this is something that Josh and I talked about fairly early on after he and I first met and started to get to know each other a little bit. We had an encounter with Michael, specifically with Michael Jones, over content that we had made that had upset him. And I think it was kind of frustrating and kind of unbelievable to me when you're putting your ideas out there, when you are publishing, and this is content creation is a form of publishing. There are, I mean, it's you are open at that point to criticism. That's
Well, I mean, today, Kip, I don't know if you saw the comment, but it's Paula Gia sent the two of us a clip of Mike Winger, and it was from some video that he'd done years ago. I don't know how long ago, but it was just this little 15-second clip of him talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls, the publication of the Daniel fragments. I think there were 8 of them, and he said, these Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the 40s manuscripts, and but they weren't published till like the 80s or something, and it's because of some of these scholars are knuckleheads, right? That don't want this like information to get out there to the public or something. And it was like, the fuck. So I tweeted it or X'd it or whatever the hell one does with it. and critiqued him
You
for
Elon'd
a
it.
grossly ill-informed take on the problems of the publications of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And somebody commented, "Did you go to Mike privately before putting this out there?"
Yeah.
Well, I mean, set aside the fact that Mike Winger won't talk to me, right? Set that aside. Like, no, what? Why in the world would I do that?
And it sort of do you know Bernalini's law? It's like that the more crap that's put out, it takes longer to debunk it than it does to put it out. And we're seeing that in real time in America, just slight political comment shoved in there. Do you feel that sometimes it's like that? That if I think that if all you were doing was going around talking to people privately about this stuff, that's all you would be doing for a job. It would take so long to combat any of this stuff that they're putting just out on the fly. I see that as a sort of very asynchronous process that it would take so long to do.
Well, I mean, that's why Josh and I were on Rationality Rules' channel for 9 hours.
9 hours.
So people don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I've told this story a bunch, but when I first came online, there was a creator. Actually, Mark, I'm sure you know him well. Praise I Am That I Am.
Oh yeah.
And Praise and I are fine, like we're friends. But there was a time that we weren't, and I remember that, like, he would put out this content, these responses to things that I would say, and I would feel obligated to address it, right? Because we're talking about slavery, and
yeah.
So he'd say, well, the Exodus 21:20-21 uses the verb to avenge twice. And so one of those verbs is for the master and the other verb is for the slave, right? And it's like, okay,
that's
well,
adorable.
Yeah, that's a special Hebrew construction. It's pretty common, but it's one that isn't, immediately understandable to people until they study the language for a little bit. So it's going to take me some time. So I put a response together. It took me a couple hours to figure out how I was going to present that. And then I did. And then, all right, so here, it doesn't mean that. And the response was, yeah, okay. But what about this?
Right.
And then you that one's a little bit, so you got to take a couple days to respond to that one, to do the research, so that, because you can't just say no, that's wrong. Because if you say no, that's wrong, and you don't actually, you can't say take my word for it. And so you have to actually, not only, you can't come out there and just say, all right, look, this is an infinitive absolute. You don't know what you're talking about. Let's move on. Right? Because nobody knows what an infinitive absolute is.
You've been trained to back it up. That's what people have to understand, that scholars don't just go, nah, you're wrong, see ya.
Right.
You've been trained to show your work.
So, but then you end up spending a week doing enough research to be able to convince the person, look, here are 76 examples of this thing, right? So there's and it can't just be that it's not likely that your position is wrong. It has there has to be no way around it, right? You have to disprove it definitively or close to it. And then, you spend all this time, make all these videos, and then they just say, yeah. All right. But what about this one? And eventually you have to just kind of go, oh my God, I have other things to do with my time.
Right.
See, you don't have a response. I win. It's like, okay.
And I've noticed they cycle back to the original one eventually, when everyone's sort of forgotten about it, that happens occasionally as well.
Oh, God.
But I want to talk, and the reason why is I want to talk about the expert problem and the novice expert problem. So, and I was talking to Kipp just before we started about what they were. So I'll go through them briefly just for the audience. With the expert problem or the empty suit is when somebody who has an expertise in one thing claims to have a, sort of will talk definitively about everything. And it's a real problem. We see
that's the expert problem.
Yes. So it's like
okay, this is a learning session for me too.
Okay. So yeah, well, like in AIG, where you have, a geologist commenting on evolution and things like that, that's largely seen as an expert problem. It's sort of, you may have a field in one thing, but you're talking definitively about something else, kind of thing. So it's known as
like a chemist, like someone with a PhD in chemistry commenting on the Nephilim in Genesis 6, something like that,
or like an Egyptologist. And not even an Egyptologist of Egyptian hegemony.
What kind of an Egyptologist is that?
I'm sorry. Talking about King Arthur, or what was the one recently?
Mishkapet.
Mishkapet, or about U.S. Agency of International Development.
Wow.
Yeah. So
those
are all good examples of that, right?
Well, when I see you guys, when you're usually up and you're asked a question outside of, even that's tangentially related to your area of expertise, but you're not in it, like, I've seen you say, hey, that isn't my, the field that I do, but here's what I know about it. It's when those caveats are lacking, that when somebody, like I say, they're a geologist and they're talking about how evolution is false, like it really is this problem that we have, especially in the Christian circles, where they don't seem to have enough people to go around the fields, kind of thing. So they will talk authoritatively about stuff. And I think that sort of Michael Jones sort of falls into that a lot. As I said to Kipp, I saw Grayson put out a video very recently, and might have even been today, about Michael Jones talking about how quantum mechanics proves a consciousness and therefore God, or at least arguing that. And it's sort of this, well, that's certainly not any expertise you have. And even him sort of going into arguing with biblical scholars over the thing, I don't think he has the credentials to really do that. I don't know. I would probably I don't know. I'm just wondering what you think about that problem that we have, that someone who is even very good in one field will talk absolutely authoritatively about literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've both seen that quite a bit, and that's a very common square to fill in on apologetics bingo, right?
Right.
Like this is if you look, if you're getting, and I think, how do I put this? I think it was an interview that I watched recently with Ruslan KD and Wes Huff, which I think kind of emphasized the problem, in particular as it pertains to, and I don't even want to call it a discipline, in particular as it pertains to doing Christian apologetics. Wes made the point about how his specialization is biblical studies, more narrowly the New Testament and New Testament manuscripts and scribal practices. But he then said, you're in this space where I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the beast. You're going to be asked about the problem of evil. You're going to be asked about, the science behind the origins of the universe. You're going to be asked these questions. So there's pressure there in the first place, I think, to know shit, know stuff about
Right.
this, to be what someone might call a generalist. But the problem is, and I feel it kind of sounds like I'm excusing them, but I'm not. I'm really not. The problem is that we live in a world today where the knowledge base has ballooned to the point where it is just a human impossibility to keep up with even the things that are within your
Yeah.
own field, right?
Mm.
We live in a world where generalism is gone. There are no generalists left anymore, just because there can't
Mm.
be. You can't learn enough to know
Right.
enough to speak cogently about all the things. It's just, and it's, it's part of this antiquated thinking to imagine that someone could even do that. Just as an
Mm.
example here, when I what I one of my teachers in undergrad uh in historical Jesus was Craig Evans. He's a fairly well-known Christian scholar and apologist, but he told us, and this was a grad course. I said undergrad, didn't I? This was actually a grad course, and I remember him telling us at the beginning of the course that when he was even still a PhD student in the 70s, the
Mhm.
1970s, or the like the late 1970s, he said it was still possible to read the entire bibliography of historical Jesus studies. Like, you
Yes.
could literally read everything that had ever been published in the entire history of the discipline. And he's like, you can't do that anymore. It's just because the
Mm.
bibliography back then, it was like this. He's like, now it's like this, right? And that's just the nature of everything nowadays.
Right.
Your disciplines have developed into sub-disciplines, which have developed into narrower
Mm.
specializations, just by virtue of the fact that the knowledge base continues to grow. And it's just not possible. It's not practical to
Mm.
keep up with everything. And Christian apologetics continues to feed into this antiquated narrative that you should even try.
Right.
And the problem is that when you do so, when someone like Michael Jones or Frank Turek tries to speak out of this side of his mouth as a biblical scholar, and then out of this side of his mouth as a philosopher, and then out of this side of, I guess, how many
Mm.
sides of your mouth do you have? The other one as a scientist. You're doing is demonstrating that you just don't know enough about the thing is, you don't know enough now about any of these things because of the investment that you've tried to make into all of them. I, that was a
Yeah,
different place than where I was expecting to end up, but yeah.
and I think there's sort of a problem that feeds into that, and that is, you know, the example that I like to give when I talk to people about this sort of thing is when you talk about if you buy a house, right? You get a mortgage on
Mhm.
a house, and let's
Sure.
say you have 3% interest rate, um, and it's a $500,000 loan. Well, you're making these mortgage payments. There's interest on each payment, and you think, my gosh, I've got like so many thousands of dollars that I'm going to have to pay more than the $500,000 by the end of this 30-year mortgage. Well, then you win the lottery. So now you have, $500,000,
Mm.
and you say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to pay off my mortgage.
Right.
I'm gonna pay off the loan. This will be great." And well, why are you going to do that? Oh, look at all the money that I'll save, right? Because now I won't have to pay these thousands of dollars in interest over the next
Mm.
30 years. I'll just pay it all off. And that can sound really logical, right? And
Right.
and if somebody were to say to you, look, you should go pay this off because look, you won't have to pay this, you'd be like, damn, that's brilliant. And then you start going out and you telling people, oh my gosh, if you get money, like pay off that loan, that mortgage, because then you won't have to pay those interest rates. And then somebody comes along and says, well, yeah, but if you take that $500,000 and invest it over here with this, this financial advisor, this broker, he'll make you 10% interest, right? 10% on your return every year on average. So while you'll still pay this 3% every year, he's going to make you 10. So you're going to net 7. Right. So it actually makes sense to keep paying on that loan and let him have the $500,000. Right. But if you, it's not knowing that there are other views. And this is why it's so important for people when it's a fundamental part of the research process when you write a dissertation to do a history of research section. Because if everybody remembers the movie Good Will Hunting, this is a perfect example of this. They're in the bar, and
Josh is not dating himself at all.
No, not at all. And this is when Matt Damon was like really young, right? Yeah. And the grad student, he's all pompous, and he says, "Oh yeah, what's your thoughts on the economic policy of so and so?" And then of course, out of nowhere, the janitor, comes up and he says, "Yeah, you're going to think that until next year when you have such and such as a professor, and then you're going to completely do away with that because you're going to read about this other economic view, and then you're going to think that until your junior year, and then you're going to read about this." And the point of it is that you can know you're right because you read this book, you read this article, and when they wrote it, it was really convincing because that's what you do, right? You make a coherent argument usually. And if you just read that,
some better than others.
So yeah, this is true. But you're like, oh my gosh, that answers the problem. Of course, the issue is that there are 17 other answers that address it in just as well, and so you have to know what they all are and where they critique one another. And this is why I think that when Kipp and I ask questions, like I'll shut up, but that chemist that we were just talking about, sure, he's a really nice guy, but my question when the premiere, was coming up, or the interview was coming up, and the thumbnail said, expert, reveals whatever about the Nephilim. I commented in the live chat before the thing started. Yeah. Why is it that we are bringing on someone who has a PhD in chemistry?
Yeah.
To talk about an incredibly complex literary topic from the Hebrew Bible in the ancient Near East. And the response to that was credentialism.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And the frustrating piece about this is that, one, no one in the field would ever make the argument, you don't have a PhD in this, therefore you're wrong. Like nobody would ever make it. Nobody gets up or nobody gets up and says, consensus says that X is true, therefore X is true. Like nobody does that. We use that as a tool, a sifting tool out here, because the chances are, in our experience, there are some savants out here, that can translate cuneiform, by walking around the British Museum for a while, right? There are people that can do that, but it's just not very normal. And so, what is it? Why is it that there are all these subject matter experts out here, and yet you're going for this person who has no training in this field? Could he be right? Sure, that's possible, but probably not, right? So
Well,
yeah.
generally with any academia, the consensus will generally move towards a more and more accurate description of the problem. That's usually why we go by consensus. And I'm not just saying through biblical studies, I'm saying with anything, with computer science, with physics, with anything, you know, because the experts in the field will gradually be convinced, even by, you know, as you said, the savant, the, you know, the guy on the fringes who will convince everybody. But it's interesting you brought up the 70s and sort of these byproducts 70s. I once read a paper, and I know this is out of left field, but I once read a paper about how it was changing in biblical studies, because it used to be that you had to be Christian and you had to have a certain sort of viewpoint. And it got me wondering, since, like, you know, the 70s and stuff, has there been a lot of pressure to, you know, sort of reflect the Christian narrative that we hear all the time, you know, that the Bible is 100%, you know, the most reliable history book kind of thing? Has there been a lot of pressure for you guys in your careers to reflect that?
I mean, a couple things here, right? First and
Sure.
foremost, the vast majority of people working in our field are either Christians or they're Jewish. And
Right.
this makes sense just because this is generally speaking the way in which you're driven into the field. That's how I got here, right? I know Josh, that's how Josh got here. So right from the get-go, that's just the nature of the field. But I think what will surprise a lot of people is to learn that while that's the demographic, that's the makeup. Like just as an example, when I started my PhD, and I was graduating out of an evangelical Christian school that had a graduate program, a very good graduate program, but you know, evangelical Christian school nonetheless. It was like the first or the second after I'd been accepted into the PhD program, and I was actually at the University of Manchester. I think it was either my first or my second actual meeting with my supervisor. He made my supervisor, whose wife, you know, was a canon in the Anglican Church in the UK, and who, you know, was had you know, he had ordination credentials in the Anglican Church. Like he's a Christian. He sits me down in this meeting, and he tells me, look, this is a serious place where we do serious work. If you're motivated to find the Ark of the Covenant, or if you're interested in working on the, you know, the scientific connection between Noah's Ark and like plate tectonics or something like that, if you're determined to make the case that Moses wrote the Pentateuch, this is not the place for you.
Right.
This is not it. This is a public institution of research. This is what we do here. We follow the evidence. Leave whatever faith commitments you might have, you leave them out there. Don't bring those in here, because that's not what we're doing here. So so yes, on the one hand, it's a field dominated, absolutely saturated by you know, sincere, deeply committed religious people. On the other hand, we're all doing our best, or at least I think most of us are doing our best to follow the evidence. And it's I only know, I'll say one more thing, like I only know about the religious affiliations of colleagues that I have in the field, just on the basis of their own private or public disclosure. It's
Right.
not a question that I ever go into a conference with, or I ever
Mm.
sit down, in a session with, when I'm listening to papers. I'm not checking off boxes, and I don't think anyone else is either. So whether you are an evangelical or a Methodist or a Sephardic Jew or an atheist or what, the goal within most of critical biblical studies is to level the playing field to the point where those are all people who can participate in the conversation, in the discussion, because we're all using the same methods, we're all operating from the same presuppositions with regards to the literature and how best to investigate and understand it, and increase our knowledge about it. We're all employing these same principles and tools. So of course, it's for everyone.
Well, I remember Mike Lacona. I think I recall he got into trouble once for sort of saying that the mass resurrection, that was, I think it was in some evangelical seminary that he was teaching, though. But I do remember that that Mike Lacona basically said, well, with the saints rising from the graves, that wasn't supposed to be real. And I believe sort of he got fired for sort of saying along those lines that the Bible wasn't
this
inerrant.
happened. And you know what happened to him right after that is he probably got 6 or 7 job offers the next day from other evangelical Christian seminaries and he ended up, he's now working at it used to be called the Houston Baptist University. I think it's Houston Christian International University or something now, which is still a pretty conservative evangelical Christian school. But I think it's a good it's a good point. On the one hand, yeah, like there's still these operational institutional biases on one level within our field, but then also like it's so there's so many levels of this that I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think that they're I mean, it's great that you guys aren't pressured in any way, but I think that in certain institutions there is pressure for them.
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Support a narrative that's been with us, and we've all heard it. The sort of the Bible is the most most reliable document ever produced, and I think that I mean, I listen a lot to Bart Ehrman, I must admit it. I think his views are pretty mainstream with the consensus as far as I know. But it sort of leads me to the novice expert problem, is that as a novice, and it's interesting, actually, I'll just touch on one thing before I go, and that is that I feel like I'm in the same boat when it comes to this expert problem that I was talking about, people with no expertise sort of talking in a different field. And you're right, I can't know everything either. But do you think it's a lot easier for me to get away with saying whatever up on a debate stage, where you would be, hamstrung and drawn and quartered for doing the same, and I can just say it and then go, I was wrong, doesn't really matter. There seems to be a lot less consequences for me spouting bullshit than you guys. And it worries me. It worries me that I'm wrong. It worries me that I could just spout all this stuff. And I do have something adjoining that as well, but I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
I think that's what makes so much of the Christian apologetics here online that we interact with so frustratingly dangerous. Because, yeah, I mean, I live with, the invisible face of my PhD advisor looming right around here.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Because everything that I say, everything that I write, I just feel his eyes on it. Right. And oh my God, don't mess that up, because he's going to, he's going to haunt you. And so, like, when Kipp and I say things and we get things wrong, because, well, here recently, we were,
But yeah, and it certainly happens, right?
yeah.
Well, no
I mean,
one's
like,
perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
we've been dealing with the archaeology of the city of Jericho.
Yeah.
And there was a phenomenal archaeologist by the name of Lorenzo Nigro, who's been excavating there for since 97, I think. And, he has come out in the past 4 or 5 years with, saying that he thinks there's a late Bronze Age wall at the city. And this is new.
That.
Yeah, it's new, not just to us, but to everybody. Like, we interviewed Professor Amihai Mazar, and he's like, yeah, I heard Lorenzo say that, and I saw that in his article that he just published, and we don't really have any data yet to support it, but you have to take what Lorenzo says seriously. He's a serious archaeologist. And, here I've got a chapter in the Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament, Volume 2, where I say, and I mean, I deal with, I footnote Nigro's article because it was pretty recent when I published the book. But, it's like, yeah, Nigro says that there's a late Bronze Age wall fragment. We don't have any independent evidence. So, like, we don't have the field reports yet or anything to support that. But the point is that, like, I think that the advantage that Kipp and I have in being able to be wrong is that we don't have these commitments that I think Christian apologists have. These theological commitments to the text or to their theology. And so I think what that means is we don't have to, like, vociferously defend a particular position. And so that leads us to not have to reach in a debate.
Right.
So somebody's like, oh, if somebody says to me, oh, Josh, like, this Hittite text proves X, Y, or Z against your position, I can say, look, I'm not a Hittitologist. So, I can refer you to some, but we're going to have to skip over that one because, I'm not going to be able to engage with it in a meaningful way. Whereas I think so often we run into people, and I know Kipp's, there's a name that's just looming in your brain right now. But, we run into some apologists that will absolutely talk about anything and everything. And it'll come out, 2 days later, that was just completely wrong. And well, I didn't have enough time, really. And, that's a really minute point to camp on. And their audience just eats it up, and so I think this is, they can feel sort of impervious to criticism, because they don't acknowledge the fault because it shows some perceived weakness on their part. And so, I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'll look weak every day. That's fine. But because I'll have my integrity when I go to sleep at night. So.
And there's also sort of the argument you made that kind of response where they do claim to know everything or pretend to be an expert on everything actually gets them more clicks, more views, more followers, and sort of is just Well, it's sort of something I was thinking, is dishonesty rewarded on YouTube, is the other thing that was sort of running through my mind. And tangentially, what I noticed from the whole Michael Jones fiasco, the 9-hour Michael Jones fiasco, was that I noticed, and maybe this is just my perception, but I noticed a asynchronicity between the professionalism here, that on one side you descend to sort of name calling and you know, fake crying and really you know, something that I wouldn't consider to be sort of what a doctor in their field would do. Whereas, I guess what I'm asking is, do you feel a compulsion to have that professional level because you are sort of, you know, a credentialed expert, whereas apologists, some of them on the other side, seem to have no problem with going to this very sort of schoolyard name calling. And I will ask that, not knowing how you guys behave at a conference or something. You might call people names I don't know, but I felt like, you know, what I felt like is that Michael Jones is hamming it up, making these, you know, statements, being very, and you guys were trying to be professional, you know, I mean, not completely because you wanted to refute him, but, you know, do you feel that that is a one-sided thing?
Well, I mean, you know, I probably should behave a little more professionally in in this space. But I mean, I think you make a good point though, in terms of and maybe this is the difference, right? Conferences are one thing.
Right.
You know, academic gatherings are one thing. That is a situation in which no, I'm, you know, no matter how stupid I think the arguments I am responding to are, I'm not,
Mhm.
and nobody is name calling. Scholars have other ways of making of making their interlocutors feel really bad.
Belittling. Yes, okay.
Yeah, they're more subtle. But I think that's a big part of the difference, is that for the Christian apologists that we engage with, this is the venue. Like for Josh
Right.
and me, this is the space to build awareness and to
Educate.
try and educate and to try and draw people
Mm.
in. You know, we do we do a bi-weekly Hebrew reading stream on my channel, just to help people who are learning the language, and for some fucking reason there's 50 people watching. uh like, what is that? And for us, in terms of our goals, this is exactly what this is about. Raising awareness, getting people excited about these texts, doing what we can to I guess promote uh scholarship in a time and in a place where it feels more and more like this kind of stuff is becoming just increasingly more inaccessible.
Mm.
That's the arena of popularization, right? And I think the
Right.
rules are different there. And I mean, honestly, when I try to be, I really do try to be respectful. It's really hard sometimes in this
Yeah.
space. But that's just it. Like that's what this space is. I mean, Josh once called this the WWE, right?
Yeah.
This is but this is not the same as the academic space. It's not the same as the actual venues, like the journals and the volumes of collected essays and the conferences. And I think therein is the difference, because to my eye, this is kind of all that apologetics is
Mm.
it's this promotional sphere. There's nothing academic about it. It's not a discipline. They're not conducting research. It's all promotion and propaganda. And I think that's, to my mind, that's the big difference here.
Yeah, and I think the way that in this arena we show respect is by actually engaging with their arguments. And
which are quite frankly just really dumb sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But like let's take one here. And this is where I think you can see the difference, because I don't think the respect or disrespect comes in tone. Now they want to make it that. And the back and forth that you're describing, they wanted to make it all that. You be mean to me, I be mean to you.
I be mean to you.
Right.
But I think that the respect here comes with steel manning or trying to steel man the argument. So, for example, David Falk, seemingly just out of left field, said the Amalekites are the Amaluka, right? This group of the Sea Peoples. And while that might mean nothing to anybody listening, that's okay. Nothing that Kipp and I had ever heard of before, right?
I thought they were largely a mystery, sort of nobody knew, really.
Yeah, they
pretty much.
We just don't know.
Ongoing discussions.
Yeah. There was a 2023 article that was published about it where there's like, here, it might be this Egyptian word. But we don't know. And so for him to come out and say, no, we know it's the Amaluka, I'm like, well, the respect.
It would change the field. Yeah.
The respect that I feel I show is by taking that seriously.
Yes.
Saying, okay, I've never heard that before, but David Falk has a PhD from Liverpool in Egyptology, right? So I need to take that seriously. So I go do my research, can't find anybody talking about it. So I email some people that are specialists in this particular area, this time period in this geographical region. Hey, do you know anything about this? Nope. That sounds crazy. Never heard of anything like that. Never heard anybody even suggest that.
Right.
Even then, when we addressed it, we said it like this. I couldn't find anything about that. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. The people that are specialists in the field are saying they don't know anything about it, and that doesn't sound right to them. However, I look forward to your peer-reviewed paper that you're going to publish on this.
Yeah. Yep.
That, in my opinion, is respecting someone. And so, because we're in this arena, Kipp and I, the first response that we did to Michael was he used to always kind of like do some self-deprecating humor on the fact that his voice cracks a little bit. I think mine does it too. But we had this clip in the beginning of the video with that Simpsons kid that goes, "Oh, excuse me, sir."
Yeah.
And I thought it was so funny. I thought he would get up. I thought he would. No,
I thought so too.
He did not. And I apologized to him on the phone, and certainly that wasn't meant. I thought it was going to be all in good fun. But that's sort of the sphere here. But this is where if I felt disrespected at all, which I mean, like fewer fucks I couldn't give here when it comes to them at this point. But if there were some disrespect that I was going to feel, it's that they weren't steel manning our arguments. They weren't saying, okay, you know what? Kipp said something about like a casemate wall, right? Instead of a double wall in the early Bronze Age. I mean, the most like it's just
so the
cross beams. Okay.
Yeah.
The point is that
that's
it's
the difference.
So
people know.
Such a fine line, a fine distinction between those two, and they camped on it.
Right.
And they stayed on it. Now, the fact that we cited 30 different scholars and a whole host of evidence directly responding to the main points, went right by them. And the reason that they could is, well, look at this. They couldn't even get this little thing right. So I don't even have to touch anything because it's so stupid. And they were big meanie faces. And so I don't have to deal with anything they said. You know, that's rhetoric. That's a way of saving face, in my opinion. And it works for their audience.
It does, yeah. And that's what concerned me. They absolutely ate it up, thinking that, hey, you know, Michael Jones just owned these people because he found
a mistake.
Right. Which, you know, is like, it is so tangential, even a remote thrust of what you're arguing for. So you feel like you were respectful towards him by taking his argument seriously, but he used that as a point of weakness. He sort of said, oh, you did it for 9 hours. And it's sort of like, well, they went really in depth to your argument. I don't, you know, I think that one of you said, I can't remember who, but they said you were screwed either way, because if you brushed over it, it would be like, oh, they're not even engaging with the argument. If you did a deep dive, it's, oh, you're spending way too much time on this. You can't win either way.
And if I could just point this out, like, this is this could just be a mistake on their part, and I can understand that. But one of the things that was really problematic for me was that Michael kept saying, and David joined in, they're not even dealing with my actual videos on the Exodus and the Conquest, right? They're taking this little interview that I did with Gavin Ortland, right? Now, the problem is that our video was not about the Exodus and the Conquest.
Right.
The video, the first video, the one that he decided to respond to, was specifically about him giving the state of the field as an expert on Gavin Ortland's channel.
Yes.
So this wasn't, we're going to respond to your views on the Exodus or the Conquest. Like, that wasn't even the point. So I can understand how he could have missed that. But the fact of the matter is that it wasn't, that's to miss the point of what we were doing. And then, of course, because of his responses that then led into, all right, well, here we have to deal with your bullshit now. But yeah, that it's missing. I think it just missed the
I don't understand, Josh. Is Michael Jones's video somehow in the curriculum of ancient studies of the Levant? You know, like, I don't understand why you would be.
It's under review at the moment.
The way he continues to present it, it certainly seems like maybe it should be. I don't know how many times I've heard him say that until somebody actually responds to this video, this one right here, then we're just going to consider the matter settled, right? Like, it's I don't know. That's
wild. I would never consider a YouTube catalog being sort of, you know, like, you are expected to see a video in order to, you know, rebut something said in another one. I don't see why it's relevant at all. It's wild. You know, if you want to say, hey, I addressed this in this video kind of thing, okay, but if you're not bringing up the point, you're not actually, you know, making that point. You can't just point to a video 2 years ago and say, hey, I did this video and this video and this video, unless you go back and watch every single one. Who does that? Really?
That's the frustrating thing about this too. And this is probably stuff that people who aren't immersed in this are unaware of. You know, like Michael's particular Exodus Rediscovered video is the one that he is sort of put out there as the definitive case, right, for the Exodus and the Conquest. What a lot of people don't realize is that all that video is a, you know, a repackaged representation of stuff that Kenneth Kitchen has been talking about for 20 years,
right?
Or stuff that you know, James Hoffmeyer has been publishing for the last 10 or 15. So it's not like there's anything new in there, and it's not like scholars are unaware.
Yeah, Finkelstein's not going, oh my God, gotta pause that. But that's That's crazy. That's
Right.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just this is stuff. Why does this warrant a response? It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's missing. It's hanging out on the edges of the actual conversation, right?
Yeah.
The actual scholarly conversations that are taking place with regards to these issues. It's kind of hanging around on the edges there. In large part because it's the ideas presented uh, are cherry picking up on nuggets that this or that critical scholar of the field will leave,
Mhm.
which Michael then can then glom onto and say, look, this kind of fits, right?
Right.
With
Right.
with my idea, with what I want to promote.
Mm.
But he's not there's no actual engagement with the larger argument, the bigger picture that scholars who are actually working in the field and doing the
Mm.
work, the stuff that they're doing. So yeah, it's that's kind of what's going on there.
No, that's fair. We've come to the end of our hour, so I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'll read out the super chat, but do feel free to take off. Maybe just quickly, Dr. Kipp, what have you got coming up? What's on the books for you? What can people look forward to?
It's a big month.
Big month.
So
Awesome.
tomorrow, yeah, it is. Tomorrow, Dr. David Carr is going to be on my channel for a live interview all about the formation of the Pentateuch. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really excited about it. A little nervous, honestly. And
Everybody should go
then
watch it. It's going to be
yeah,
amazing.
seriously, it's going to be incredible. This is a rare treat.
Is it live or a
It's
premiere
live.
kind of thing?
No,
Oh,
it's
wonderful.
going to be live. So bring your questions because Dr. Carr has agreed to answer audience questions. So
it
that
is
is
3 a.m. in the morning for me. You suck. It
I
is
know.
3 a.m. in the morning. That's okay. I will link it though. Please do join
So
in. Yeah.
sorry, Mark.
No, that's okay. It's just it's
But
just
yeah, this is what we could do. Next week on Wednesday, I have the only professor of art crime in America, Erin Thompson, on my channel to talk about antiquities forgeries and
She's awesome.
some stuff that she's doing. Yeah, you guys did a thing with her a couple of years ago.
awesome.
So, and some stuff that she's been writing about recently concerning the Dead Sea Scrolls forgeries. And then at the end of the month, Dr. Justin Sledge from Esoterica is also going to be on my channel for a live discussion and to answer questions. And I should say that later tonight I'm going to be on Zadanza, fulfilling a childhood dream of being a guest on Zadanza. So that's what's going on.
What is Zadanza? I don't. What's
It's
Zadanza?
that's a Prophet of Zod and
Oh, okay.
Objectively Dan's weekly Thursday night show. It's lots of fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah, awesome.
People should watch it if they can.
Okay. Yeah,
It's always
absolutely.
really good. I'm sadly not as funny as Dan, but hopefully it'll still be good.
Yeah, I'm in that camp as well. Don't worry about it. And Josh, what have you got coming up? What can people look forward to?
So I am teaching Hebrew and Sumerian classes through Digital Hammurabi. People can sign up for those. We just started the cycle, so we'll be starting semester 2 for Biblical Hebrew, but and second semester is Sumerian, but I am doing a Hebrew readings class. So if people have learned Biblical Hebrew in the past but are rusty, they learned it years and years ago, but would like to get back into it, that's the class to attend. But if people are interested in taking Hebrew, learning it from the beginning, from scratch, I've just written three books on it, 3 Hebrew grammars, and so we use those in the courses. So you can go to Digital Hammurabi, HAMMURABI .com, and there's a mailing list there that you can sign up for, and all the information about the classes comes out there. So yeah, definitely check that out.
Fantastic. Yeah, I heard that you were doing classes in language, which is just fascinating. Is Megan helping you with those? Is that something that's going down?
Yeah, she runs all the technical side of it. She's probably going to be teaching a Sumerian class coming up soon. She's just
Yep.
still kind of bogged down with other stuff, but she'll probably end up teaching Akkadian as well at some point. So yeah, we've
No
got some good,
problem.
cool stuff on the
That
horizon.
damn Bart Ehrman.
One of my questions was, why is Bart Ehrman the devil? I didn't get to it, but like, you know, the hate that I've seen for that man is just it's intense. It really is intense. I just you know, I really feel he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah,
it's because I'll tell you why. It's because he got to go on the Daily Show and the Colbert Report, and everyone's just jealous.
Oh,
right?
Fair enough. I mean, I'm a
just
little jealous, but
that's it.
yeah, absolutely. But do feel free to take off, and I really do. I thank you so much for your time. It was there's so much I did not get to, from the mythicist position to you know, a lot of different stuff, but you know, that's okay. I realize our time is limited, and I really
we'll just have to come back on, Mark. Just have to come back.
That would be fantastic. Look, if there's any way I can help you out, I know I'm just a idiot debater that gets stuff wrong all the time. Feel free to correct me. I like being corrected by people who actually know what they're talking about, as opposed to being corrected by, you know, debaters that don't know what they're talking about. It's really usually
well, if you ever need a second in a 2-on-2 debate on slavery, you just let me know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the only person I don't know many people that are willing to debate that, except for maybe Praise, and that's a whole nother, you know, story.
I feel like we've gone down that road a few times.
Yeah. But you know, feel free to stay if you want. You know, I really appreciate your time. So do take off if you are time limited. I'll just quickly go through the super chats because I
appreciate it, guys. I'm gonna drop out and go.
My pleasure.
I'll stick around for the super chats.
Sure. My StreamYard isn't working, so I'm going to have to read these out from the logout chat. But who knows? Jessica Bell for $5 says, "All hail Dr. Kill and Professor Biblical Slavery." I'm not sure which one is which, to be honest with you. Oh, I think I can guess now. Long live the burning purple. Is that like a disease? Like, is that like an STI or something?
There's lots of lore in this super chat, Mark, that maybe you're not. So this is with reference to Amon Hillman, who famously promotes some really fantastically stupid ideas about the Bible. He's got this theory that all the first Christians and everyone in the Jesus movement were all just absolutely baked out of their gourds on drugs all the time. This particular narcotic he's identified as the burning purple. So but it's complete unevidenced patented nonsense. So that's that. May there be many female rabbis is with reference to a recent stream, actually, that Michael Jones did, where he got stumped online by noting it was actually in response to a video that Justin Sledge from Esoterica had done, and he got absolutely stumped live on the air by the fact that Justin Sledge's wife is a rabbi. And Michael was so confused by that he had to Google or Chat GPT live on the air whether or not there are female rabbis. It was quite something to behold in real time. So Yeah,
Isn't a
that's
rabbi just a
that's
teacher? Like it's just a teacher. It's
well,
not
I
even
mean, it is a professional distinction in today's day and
right,
age.
right.
Rabbis
Yeah, yeah,
are
gotcha.
you know, but I mean, there've been female rabbis around for a very long time. So
I wouldn't imagine that Hasidic Jews would perhaps allow them, would they? But um,
certain segments of Orthodox Judaism do, not all of them, but
right, right.
it's pretty common actually nowadays.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's
yeah,
great. You know, hey, you know, equal opportunity, absolutely on board. You know, I do know that some people who were Catholics that were very, you know, the Catholics still won't allow women to be
they still
priests,
won't.
kind of thing. Yeah,
Yep.
and they were very, you know, upset by that, and it's sort of, yeah, no, I can understand why. Um, my unfinished journey for the magical $6.66 Beast of the Mark. Hail Nero, Mark, and Dr. Kill and Josh. If Kipp is one toque over the line, would that be a hat trick? I
Ching. Do you know?
I
Do you
don't.
recognize any of the? Do you have any idea? Do you know what a toque
So
is?
I know a toque. It's like a beanie. It's a
Oh,
Canadian beanie.
yeah.
Yes, I do know what that
That's what
is.
Canadians call them. Do you know what a hat trick is?
Usually, I know what it is in cricket.
Oh, what is it in cricket? I don't know what it is in
In
cricket.
a hat trick is in cricket is the bowler getting 3 outs off 3 balls. So
Oh,
basically, getting
great.
3
Yeah.
people out in a row is a hat trick.
Very similar in hockey. I guess technically in ice hockey,
Yeah.
it's when one player scores 3 goals in a game.
Ah,
So
okay. Beautiful.
I assume that's what I assume it's probably with reference to the hockey one. Because I
Cricket
don't
not
know
big in
anything about
Canada.
cricket.
Cricket not. No, it's
No,
not big in Canada.
no.
You're betraying your
It's certainly
Commonwealth
not.
roots. You're betraying your
Right?
Commonwealth roots.
Yes, we are. We absolutely are.
Like the Indian
Uh,
people, the
oh
Australians,
yeah.
the English, we're
Yeah,
all
no,
into
it's
cricket. Yeah.
true. You're all in the Jamaica. Like this is so. I had a job. That's I did have a job once. When a job that I had, I should put it that way. When I was young, and still training for the ministry. I was like an apprentice sort of pastor, a student pastor in a church.
Right.
And the senior pastor in this church that I was working in was from Trinidad and
Trinidad, yeah.
loved cricket and he was a very, very good cricket player. Apparently, so good that he was actually in consideration when he was a young man still living in Jamaica for their national team. But yeah, not at all famous in Canada though. No, nobody cared.
No, fair enough. Nobody cares for cricket. Okay. Left and a Jedi for $2. Jesus action figure with Kung Fu grip. I wouldn't be surprised, quite frankly. I would not be surprised if that was actually out there. Nothing would surprise me anymore with religion. But thank you, Jedi. I really appreciate it. And I think I had one more. Yes,
one more.
Deviant Outcast for Swedish krona, 50 Swedish krona. I'll forgive Dr. Josh for not being an Egyptologist if he does a Hovind impression, but preferably on a short rap. I'm sorry, Deviant. I let him go before we could do that. I like the conversation. I usually don't interrupt with Super Chat. So that's totally my fault. Blame me. Absolutely. And I usually do a Hovind stream for Easter and Christmas. The original one I did, I was playing. So I joined a cult. Honey, I joined a cult as Dr. Hovind. The last one I did was a Jesus simulator as Dr. Hovind. And I say doctor with all sort of facetiousness I can. But yeah, if you want a Hovind impression, I'll make up for it and I'll do it instead, Deviant. I'm sorry. Mine's nowhere near as good as Josh's though. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Did you see this at the bottom here, Mark? Jessica Bell says that Canada played in the last Cricket World Cup.
But I don't think anybody noticed. I don't think anybody noticed, Jessica. They're not. I'm sorry. They're this Canada. You know, unless they're playing cricket on ice, they'll just
see. I didn't know. Right. I live in this.
Right.
I live in this country, and I had no idea. Wow, amazing.
like, does cricket even have a World Cup?
I would think so, don't they?
Yeah,
Are you
they
looking
do.
it
Well,
up?
I mean, I look, I don't do sport. The only sport I like is robot fighting. So, you know, I really don't pay attention to it. I gotta admit. And like we have
Fair.
the Ashes, which is like England and Australia fighting, like playing cricket over a burnt stump. I don't know why. It's so mysterious. It's indecipherable.
Sport is weird. Like, really. Lots of them are very strange. So.
Well, like we can sort of there's sort of things that sport has replaced warfare in a certain way, so I can sort of get on board with that. Like Pakistan and India probably would have been at war, like a worse war by now, if like, you know, cricket didn't exist.
If not for cricket, it's true.
Yeah, which is crazy. Anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Kipp. Really appreciate it. I do have to wrap up. I will have a segment in about 5 minutes on Frank Turek and his stand-up comedy performance. It's a part 2, so hang around if you want to. If not, all good. But thank you so much. Don't forget to be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. Thank you so much, Doctors Josh and Kipp. Their links are in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Right.
This old switchboard could talk. Wow. Your ears would sizzle. 1880. We take Alexander Graham Bell's invention for granted today. Perhaps we should. But isn't it incredible that millions and millions of people can talk simultaneously to practically any spot on Earth